Did you know that one man's conviction cost him his life? Discover the powerful story of John Rogers, the first English Protestant martyr under Queen Mary I. John Rogers was born around 1505 in Durrington, an area of Birmingham, England. His father, also named John Rogers, worked as a lorimer, making bits and spurs. His mother was Margaret Wyatt, a tanner's daughter from Erdington. He grew up in a household rich in trades, but was destined for a more scholarly path. Rogers received his early education at the Guild School of St. John the Baptist in Durrington before attending Pembroke Hall at Cambridge University. He graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1526. After completing his education, Rogers took a position as the rector of Holy Trinity the Less in London between 1532 and 1534. His life took a turn when he moved to Antwerp. Here, he became chaplain to the English merchants, known as the Company of the Merchant Adventurers. It was in Antwerp where he encountered influential figures of the Protestant Reformation, such as William Tyndale. Tyndale's teachings and writings inspired Rogers to abandon the Roman Catholic faith, which he had previously followed. In 1537, influenced by his newfound beliefs and Tyndale's legacy, Rogers contributed to the Matthew Bible, the first complete English Bible to be translated directly from the original texts. The Matthew Bible was printed in Paris and Antwerp by his wife's uncle, Sir Jacobus van Meteren. This Bible was significant in making the scriptures accessible to the English-speaking population. This work not only solidified Rogers' standing among Protestant reformers, but also put a target on his back as conflicts between Catholicism and Protestantism intensified throughout England. Rogers later married Adriana de Weyden, who became an integral part of his life. Together, they had at least 10 children, a family that would soon feel the impact of his religious convictions. Rogers dedicated his life to promoting Reformation ideals, even after returning to England in 1548. He opposed Catholic beliefs publicly, warning against popery and idolatry during sermons at Paul's Cross in London. His actions garnered both supporters and enemies, marking him as a prominent figure in the fight for Protestantism. However, this dedication came at a cost. With the ascension of Queen Mary I, who aimed to restore Catholicism, Rogers' opposition became even more dangerous. He was arrested along with other Protestant leaders and faced immense pressure to renounce his beliefs. Despite the risks to his family and his comfort, Rogers remained steadfast in his faith, a decision that would soon lead to unimaginable consequences. The atmosphere in England changed dramatically with the rise of Queen Mary I in 1553. Mary was determined to restore Roman Catholicism to a country that had seen waves of Protestant reforms under her predecessors. This shift aimed to reverse advancements made during the Protestant Reformation, which had taken root under King Edward VI. Protestants viewed Mary's ascent as a threat, as her reign marked the beginning of a fierce crackdown on those who opposed Catholic doctrines. In this context, Mary actively sought to prosecute individuals labeled as heretics. She brought back the old laws against Protestantism, intensifying the atmosphere of fear and oppression. Protestant leaders like John Rogers and others faced severe persecution for their beliefs and were often arrested. Their sermons that once filled the streets with hope were now seen as acts of rebellion against the crown. This persecution led to a treacherous environment where many had to hide their true beliefs to avoid arrest. Rogers continued to preach despite the threats looming around him. He was unyielding in his beliefs and spoke out fiercely against what he called pestilent popery, idolatry, and superstition. His actions and words created a rift between supporters and detractors, which only heightened the tension of the kingdom. During sermons at Paul's Cross, he encouraged others to remain steadfast in their faith, rallying a following of devoted Protestants who dared to oppose the monarchy's directives. The growing unrest surrounding Rogers led to his downfall. In August 1553, he was summoned before the council and ordered to confine himself in his home, which marked the beginning of his confinement and eventual imprisonment. His voice, once celebrated for its boldness, was silenced by fear of persecution. As months passed, the political climate continued to worsen for those who stood against Mary's oppressive regime. After enduring a year under house arrest, pressures escalated, and Rogers, along with other prominent Protestant figures, was ultimately sent to Newgate Prison. Being imprisoned among thieves and those charged with serious crimes further highlighted the struggle within the English religious landscape. There, he faced not only loss of freedom, but also the emotional toll of being removed from his wife and children, from whom he drew much of his strength. The day of John Rogers' execution arrived on February 4, 1555. He was summoned from Newgate Prison to stand trial once more, still firm in his beliefs, despite the intense pressure to recant his faith. Rogers faced his accusers, including the powerful Bishop Stephen Gardiner, without fear, ready to defend his convictions. As he entered the assembly, the charged atmosphere reflected the weight of his impending fate, with a crowd of spectators gathering to witness the event. During the examination, Rogers expressed his strong belief that the Church of Rome had strayed from true Christianity. He was charged with heresy for denying the Catholic doctrines, which enraged the church officials who were zealous to enforce conformity. Despite pleas for him to recant, he stood his ground, resolutely declaring, "That which I have preached, I will seal with my blood." His words resonated with the people present, who were drawn by his courage in the face of death. Rogers was ultimately found guilty and sentenced to be burned at the stake. As word of his fate spread, many came to witness the event, a mix of supporters and those eager to see his punishment. The prospect of his execution sparked discussions among the crowd, highlighting the divide in religious beliefs and the growing tension in the capital. Rogers's bravery inspired many who believed in the reformist cause to come forth, even at great personal risk. As Rogers approached the stake, he was offered a chance of pardon if he would recant his Protestant beliefs. However, he adamantly refused and chose instead to embrace his faith, a moment that would cement him as a martyr. The spectators watched in awe as he prepared himself for the fire, despite the tears of his family and the sorrow in the crowd. His final declaration of faith echoed among them, a haunting reminder of the stakes of religious conviction during the Reformation. Finally, the flames engulfed Rogers, and he met his end with remarkable calmness. Witnesses reported that he faced the fire with dignity, even washing his hands in the flames shortly before he died. His execution would not be in vain, as it sparked outrage and resistance among many Protestants. The loss of a faithful leader ignited further fervor for reform, making Rogers an enduring symbol of opposition against tyranny. The aftermath of John Rogers's execution on February 4, 1555, sent shockwaves throughout England and had deep repercussions for the Protestant community. His death marked the beginning of a series of persecutions known as the Marian persecutions, wherein numerous individuals would face the same fate for their beliefs. As news of his martyrdom spread, many Protestants were inspired to take a firmer stance against the Catholic Church, fueling a sense of urgency among reformists across the nation. Rogers's death did not just affect his immediate community, but resonated across England and beyond, impacting the Protestant Reformation as a whole. Many began to question the harsh realities of Mary Was reign and the treatment of dissenters. This anger motivated numerous protests, and underground movements began to form, as people sought to hold on to their faith in secret, inspired by Rogers's courage and unwavering resolve. Rogers's legacy was preserved in various forms, becoming a symbol of resistance against tyranny. In 1853, a bust in his honor was erected at St. John's Church in Durriton, Birmingham, affirming his place in history as the first English Protestant martyr. His story was often recounted in pamphlets and sermons, inspiring future generations to uphold the ideals he fought for during turbulent times. Despite the dire consequences faced by Rogers and others like him, their faith and tenacity proved to be catalysts for change. His martyrdom inspired increased support for Protestant reformers, galvanizing the movement to oppose the Catholic Church's harsh tactics. The events that transpired after his death laid the groundwork for future conflicts and reforms, helping shape a nation increasingly resistant to oppression. In the years following Rogers's execution, many more would join him as martyrs, further embedding his story into the narrative of the Protestant Reformation. The reverberations of his sacrifice could be felt through parliaments and churches, leading to a gradual shift in public opinion. Over time, his commitment to his faith would be celebrated as a pivotal moment for Protestantism in England, and individuals would remember his courage with gratitude for generations to come.